Today I'm going to discuss a very important topic in obs and gynae, and that is the menstrual cycle. You can see an overview of the menstrual cycle from this diagram. Now, starting from bottom to top, you can see different changes. And when I tell you from top to bottom, you can see that on the top diagram, we have fluctuation of gonadotrophin level. LH is the black in color. At 14 days, there is LH surge and also FSH rises a little bit. And B is fluctuation of ovarian hormone level. Okay. Second is that fluctuation of ovarian hormone level. You can see from the second chart that the estrogen rises slowly. And then at about 12 to 13 or 14 days, there is estrogen burst. After estrogen burst, there is LH, you can see on the top. And as far as the progesterone is concerned, the level of progesterone is low initially and then it rises. Okay, rises in the last days. Okay, and the third diagram is about ovarian cycle. So what you see in the ovarian cycle, basically in the ovarian cycle we have three phases. One is follicular phase, second is ovulation phase, and third is the luteal phase. Ovulation phase is around about at 14 days. Okay. So this diagram gives you a very good overview. I will explain each and every phase, both ovarian and the endometrial phases in detail in the same video. So bear with me. But this diagram shows you a very good idea about what happens on what day. Okay, and in the end you can see the changes in the endometrium. Okay, menstrual cycle or uterine cycle. So what are the changes in the in the endometrium? So you can see from 0 to 5 days you can see that there is the menstrual phase, and after that the functional layer of endometrium starts proliferating from day 5 and reaches to the top level on the 25th day. So slowly and gradually it proliferates. But proliferative phase starts from day 5 till round about at 18 days or 20th days. That is variable. And after that, the secretory phase starts. Okay, so in the menstrual cycle as well, we have the three phases, but the days are different as compared to ovarian cycle. Now, let us study in detail the phases of the menstrual cycle. So, as I have told you, in the ovary, we have three phases: follicular phase, ovulation phase, the luteal phase. And in the endometrium, we have three phases like proliferative phase, secretory phase, and the menstruation phase. Okay, this is another diagram which shows the same changes which I have shown you before, but I will keep this diagram along with me in each and every cycle. So, it would be better if you try to understand it in a very proper way. So on the top we have some hormonal changes. Okay, so the amber color or the yellowish color is that for the FSH. Okay, the red one is that for LH. Okay, in the mid cycle, that is about 13 to 14 days, you can see that the red level goes to the top, means there is LH surge. Okay, this is the same thing which I explained to you before. And as far as the purple line is concerned, that is about the estrogen, and estradiol slowly and gradually increases in level. And when there is the estrogen burst at about 12 to 13 days, after that there is LH surge. Okay, after estrogen burst, there is LH surge. And the progesterone level slowly and gradually rises. Okay, and it reaches to the top in the secretory stage of the menstrual cycle. Okay, so that is about the hormonal level. The next diagram is about the endometrial changes. You can see we have menstruation, then we have proliferative endometrium till about 13 days. From 5th to 13 days, we have proliferative endometrium, and from 13 to 28 days, we have secretory endometrium. And after that, menstruation phase starts again. And when we see the follicular development and the ovarian cycle on the bottom, you can see that from day 1 to 5 we have follicular growth. From 5th to 13 there is a follicular phase. Okay, 1 to 5 is basically the menstrual phase in the endometrium, but at the ovarian level, there is some follicular growth. And from 5th to 13th day, we have follicular phase. And from 13 days, there is, as you can see, that there is LH surge. So ovulation takes place. And when ovulation takes place, the remnants of the follicles becomes the corpus luteum. And at the end of that luteal phase, what happens that corpus luteum starts regressing. So when it regresses, the progesterone level comes down, so the menstruation phase begins. Okay, so let us discuss the first phase. That is the first phase of the ovarian cycle, that is the follicular phase, and it starts from day 5 to 14. Okay, so we are studying it at the ovarian level. Okay, that is the follicular phase from 5 to 14 days. So what happens initially if you look at the hormones? If you look at the hormones, you can see that the estrogen level is low. We have low estrogen, low progesterone, low inhibin. Okay, you can see in the diagram that the purple is that of the estrogen. Estrogen is initially low at the 5th day. You can see that estrogen is low. Progesterone is also low. Okay, but if you see the yellowish color, that is the FSH is initially high as compared to other levels. You can see in the start of the follicular phase. Now, one other thing that is very important to be understood is that on what levels the FSH and LH work. FSH works or acts on granulosa cells, and LH works or acts on the theca cells. So what happens that when FSH act on the granulosa cells of the ovary, then as a result of aromatase activities, it results in the formation of the estrogen. Okay, and then at the theca level, when LH acts, the androgen precursors as a result of aromatase activity give rise to estrogen. So what happens as a result of these changes due to FSH and a little bit by LH, the estrogen level rises. Okay, you can see from the chart that estrogen is going to increase a little bit. Okay, and then what happens that by negative feedback mechanism, what happens that estrogen level comes down. Okay, you can see, FSH level comes down. You can see in the diagram that yellow one is that of the FSH. So FSH is coming down as a result of rising estrogen. Okay, and what is the effect of this low FSH? Low FSH will cause atresia of the small follicles, and one dominant follicle will reach to its maximum size of 20 mm. So what is the main cause of this dominant follicle? That is basically low FSH, which causes atresia of the small follicle, but one follicle, that is dominant follicle, reaches to its maximum size of about 20 mm. Okay, so look at the complete picture. You can see the follicular phase when the estrogen level slowly increases, FSH slowly decreases, and one dominant follicle is formed. Now coming to the second stage of ovarian cycle, that is the ovulation phase. Ovulation phase starts at about 13 to 14 days, you can see. And what happens that there is a steady rise in the estrogen level, as we said before, and that steady rise in the estrogen level causes LH surge. Okay, because it has the positive feedback effect upon the luteinizing hormones. So it results in estrogen burst because of the rising estrogen level, and that causes LH surge for 24 to 36 hours. Now, what is the role of LH? LH causes luteinization of the granulosa cells, and so the level of progesterone increases. So you can see from the green line that progesterone is rising. At the same time, the androgen increases, which increases libido. So this is a time of maximum fertility, that is about 13 to 14 days, when also the androgen level increases and it causes the increased libido. Now, the breakdown of the follicular wall occurs under the influence of LH, FSH and proteolytic enzyme. That is very important exam question as well, that what causes the breakdown of follicular wall, that is under the influence of LH, FSH and proteolytic enzyme, and that results in ovulation. You can see the ovulation phase from this whole chart. Okay, you can see after 13 days there is a breakdown of follicular wall, and that results in the release of ovucytes, and this breakdown is under the influence of LH, FSH and proteolytic enzymes, because you can see that the level of LH, FSH are high here. Now coming to the last phase of the ovary, that is the luteal phase, which takes place at about 14 days. So what happens that after the release of the ovum in the previous phase, now corpus luteum forms. Okay, because now you can see that the ovum has been released, so corpus luteum forms, and this corpus luteum causes progesterone dominance. It releases progesterone. Okay, so what happens after that? In the absence of beta HCG, okay, there is luteolysis, corpus luteum disappear, and progesterone is withdrawal, and there is shedding of endometrium. So menstruation starts. Okay, so with that we come to end of the ovulation phases of the changes taking place in the ovary. And that is the complete picture. Now coming to what changes take place in the endometrium. In the endometrium, first of all, we have proliferative phase. So what happens that under the effect of the estrogen, there is a glandular and stromal growth. Okay, so in the proliferative phase, which takes place from 5th to 13th day roundabout. Under the effect of estrogen, there is glandular and stromal growth. The estrogen level is high, which causes the growth of the glandular and stromal tissue. So endometrial thickness increased from 0.5 mm to 3.5 mm. You can see from this whole chart as well that there is estrogen rise and there is endometrial thickness. Now come to the second stage of the endometrial cycle, and that is the secretory phase. And this phase takes place from about 13 to 28 days. So what happened that endometrial glands become tortuous, spiral arteries grow, and there is formation of decidua, and all of these are under the influence of progesterone. You can see from the whole chart that there is further proliferation of the endometrium. Now coming to the last phase of changes in the endometrium, that is the menstruation phase. Okay, menstruation phase occurs on day 1. Remember this point. And there is shedding of the dead endometrium and withdrawal of progesterone. Okay, there is withdrawal of progesterone and loss of tissue fluid, vasoconstriction of the spiral arteries and distal ischemia. Bleeding ceases after 5 to 10 days. Okay, so that is the whole chart showing each and every changes both in the endometrium and also in the ovary. Okay, this is another chart which gives a little bit overview about what happens in the overall. Okay, in the ovary you can see that there is maturation of the follicles, and then the corpus luteum forms, and that regresses at the end. What happens at pituitary gland level, hormone from pituitary glands, what happens at the FSH level, you can see slowly and gradually it rises in the mid-cycle and then comes down again, and LH surge is at about 13 to 14 days. And ovarian hormones, you can see that the estrogen level slowly and gradually rises because of the aromatization of the cholesterol in the ovaries under the effect of the LH and FSH, and so estrogen level increases till the mid-cycle, then it gradually decreases, and progesterone level is very low, and initially and in the secretory phase, its level goes to the peak level. Okay, the uterine thickness in the start of the menses, when the menses come to end, the endometrial thickness slowly and gradually increases till it reach to the peak level in the secretory phase, and then the menstruation takes place, and there is endometrial shedding. Okay, so that was an overview of what happens in the menstrual cycle. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.